A very good morning to one and all. And today class is about the third unit. I'm starting unit number 3. And in that I'm divide the third unit into two parts, part A and part B. And while coming to the part A, and it is about the context-free languages and grammars, where we can call it as an CFLs and CFGs. And here coming to the context free grammars and what the contents that we are having as per the syllabus is. And first you need to know what the definition of the context free grammar, and then the derivations using an grammar. And here we're having two most important derivations. One is a leftmost derivation and the another one is a rightmost derivation. And then the language of a grammar, and denoting and sentinel forms, then representing and parse trees, and knowing about what the applications of the context free grammars are, and then about an ambiguity in context free grammars and languages. And these are the concepts I'm going to cover in this part A under unit 3. Coming to the point that not all languages are regular, and here we're having a question we need to justify for this. Why not all languages are regular? And so what happened to the languages which are not regular means, we still come up with the language recognizers, and here we're having something that will accept or something that will reject, or else the strings that belongs to or does not belongs to the language. Then we can say that the languages are not regular. That means not all languages are regular. Sometimes some languages are not regular. And then this is a simple diagram for the context free language representation. And here uh, the representation consisting of regular finite automata, regular expression, that is an RE, and as well as the context free, are where it includes the both context free grammar as well as an PDA, right? And that means always the regular languages are subset of the context free grammars. So here, while coming to the concept of these context free languages, where a language class is always larger than the class of the regular languages. So that's why we're showing it in the form of the representation like this. And the language class is always larger than the class of the regular languages. And here it always supports the naturals, and it always supports the recursive notations, where we're calling them as in context free grammars. And here the applications of the context free grammars are, we can use these context free languages at parse trees, in compilers, and in XMLs. XML is nothing but an hypertext markup language. And in extended XML, we are using these context free languages. And these are the applications of the context free languages. One we are using in parse trees and in compilers, and as well as in the XML. What the XML is? Markup language. Extended markup language is represented by an XML, hypertext markup language, HTML. I think you all know. In the HTML, we are going to learn about an extended markup language which is represented with an XML, and there also we are using this context free languages, right? And always these are the larger classes. And which are the larger classes means, the a language class is always larger than the class of the regular languages. And coming to the most important definition in this unit number 3, because our unit, the third unit is an context free grammars unit. And here we are going to learn about the definition of this, what the context free grammar is. Simply we can call it as an CFG. Always we can't spell it out as in context free grammar. Simply we name it as in CFG. The CFG abbreviation is context free grammar. Right, see here is the definition for the context free grammar, where it consisting of a finite set of grammar rules. And here also we define the context free grammar with an tuples. That means in unit number 1 we learned finite automatas. There we defined the finite automata with an 5 tuple machine. And there in the unit number 1 we learned about the machines, output machines. And output machines are Murray and Mealy machines. There we learned the Murray and Mealy machines with the 6 tuples. And coming to here, coming to the context-free grammars, here we are learning these context-free grammars with an four-tuple machine. Four-tuple grammar. What the four tuples are, how we described the four tuples means, let's see. And we can say that these are the quadruples. Four means and quadruple, right? So a finite set of grammar rules is a quadruple. And what the set consisting of means V, T, P, S. All capital letters V, comma, T, comma, P, comma, S. Now let us describe what V is. A set of non-terminal symbols. Also we can call it as an variables. Non-terminals can also be called as an variables. Means wherever you see the capital letters, then those can be considered as an non-terminals. And T is an terminals, including the epsilon, we can consider it as an terminal. T means all the symbols like star or plus, minus, whatever the operators or whatever the symbols, any other symbolic words or as the lowercase letters, all these were considering them as an terminals. And P is the most important thing you need to know. P is a set of rules. That means if you need to define the rule, you need to know the frame, you need to know the template of what the P is. That means how to represent the P. And P should consisting of the both variables and the terminals whole star. Why? Because always we can use the combinations of the variables, non-terminals and the terminals. That's why we put in clean closure for that. And it should always be in the form of A tends to beta. And A tends to beta in the sense, and the P rule should consisting of two sides, left side and right side. And the left side, that means the uh, left side tends to the right side. Left side is an A here. It is in the form of A tends to beta like this. Let us assume that it is an A tends to beta. And always the A should be an non-terminals and the beta should be the combinations of both the non-terminal and the terminal like this. Right, the left side of the production rule P does not have any right context or left context. Right? So this is the production definition. And S is an start symbol. S is always on start symbol, starting symbol. That means in your grammar, with which variable your grammar starts, that becomes a start symbol in the given grammar. And see here we're having a simple expressions for knowing that or for representing in context free grammars. And we can write a CFG for accepting simple expressions like this. E tends to, that means it should be in the form of rule P. This is the way of defining the production, where the production is in the form of A tends to beta. A is always an variables in the sense non-terminals, and beta is the combination of both the non-terminal and the terminal like this. And here E is a non-terminal and plus is an terminal, and these are the combinations of beta. See here we're having another rule for the E star E. Again we're having another rule, open parenthesis E closed parenthesis or F, right? And this is the way of writing and context free grammars. And also here we're having a new variable F, right? In the E, we're having a new variable F. And which is the starting symbol of this given grammar? E is the starting symbol of this given grammar. E is the starting symbol of this given grammar. And the terminals are plus star, open parenthesis, and closed parenthesis are the terminals. And the variables are, that means non-terminals are capital E and capital F. Right? Is it clear now? And these are the productions. Production 1, production 2. That means rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, rule 4 for the E. And here we're having a new variable like an F. Right? And wherever we are getting a new variable, that means from where the variable defines a new variable. Here already my E is in start symbol, I already defined that E is defining a new variable F, right? So if we can say that it is, if it is a dead variable or live variable, how we can decide? That means if F produces the rules like this, then it is an live variable. If it does not produce, that means if it does not contains any rules means it is a dead variable. So to make it as a context free grammar, we need, what we need to do is we need to write and rules for the f like this, the combinations of with the combinations of the terminals and non-terminals. And so I am always calling the non-terminals as a variable. Don't get confused. Non-terminals and the variables are same, right? Variables means and uppercase letters, and as well as the non-terminals is also an uppercase letters. So for the f I am defining the rules like this: f tends to a, f b, f 0f 1f, and somewhere you need to stop this, right? Somewhere you need to stop this, and somewhere you need to get the input string. So directly we need to take the a or b or 0 or 1, right? Just by substituting in the place of f's, in the place of e's, we can get an input string with the terminals, right? The input string should always contains with an terminals, not with an variables. So if the input string contains the variables means then we need not call it as an input string, something we need to derive, still it is left it out, right? So this is the way of writing the context free grammars just for accepting and simple expressions. And we can also call the input strings as an expressions also, because those are should be in the form of an algebraic expressions, where it is the combinations of both the digits and the lowercase letters and the symbols. So we can call them as an simple expressions, or we can call them as an input strings like that. And right, I think you all understand from the definition of this context free grammar, and by knowing what the four tuples, and knowing about how to write the rule, production rule, and which format that we need to follow for writing the production rule, what the left hand side consisting of and what the right hand side consisting of in the rule, that means that tends to, after and before, and then which symbol we are calling it as a starting symbol. And after knowing that, and we can write in simple context free grammars like this. Is it clear to you all? And when the context free grammar should acceptable means when it generates, here I defined and rules, right? But the rules, whatever the production rules I defined, those should generate an input string in the form of the terminals, then only they can get acceptable. So then only we can say that they are acceptable context free grammars. See here, this I already explained you, and from this, from the VTPS, from the quadruples of the context free grammars, V is EF, T is here whatever the lowercase letters along with the digits and along with the operators or any other symbols, whatever we are having, we all consider those as in terminals, like 0, 1, A, B, plus, star, open parenthesis, closed parenthesis, and starting symbol is in capital E. Productions are these are the productions, right? See, these are the productions. Is it clear? Any doubts in this? Any doubt in the definition of context free grammar? And let's see example number 1. Let's see example number 1. And what the example is, here the question is language of balanced parentheses. And that means you need to write the context free grammar for the language of balanced parentheses. If you know how to take the input in the form of the balanced parenthesis means, then it is very easy for you. Balanced parenthesis means whatever the parenthesis it may be square brackets, then you, if you open one square bracket means you need to close one. If you open two square brackets means you need to close two square brackets. Or if you open a simple parenthesis means then you need to close an parenthesis, right? So here we're having a different types of parenthesis. You can choose any of those, but I am choosing the parenthesis like this symbol I am choosing, this type of parenthesis I am choosing. And from your keyboard you are having a square, and as well as on the up of the square you are having another representation of the parenthesis. So you can choose any of these, any of those, nothing will be happen. But my question is to language of balanced parenthesis. So I am taking, just I am making an example that The question is in balanced parenthesis. That's why I write the balanced parenthesis like this. If I open the parenthesis, then I need to close. Then only it comes under unbalanced. If I open one, I need to close one. If I open two, then I close one, means it does not comes under the balanced parenthesis, right? If I open two, then I close it two, means it is in balanced parenthesis. So let's check it here. One, two. It open close. It is imbalanced. One, two, three, four. Four open and one, two, three, four. Four closed. It is unbalanced. And three open and three closed. Balanced parenthesis. If I left out one here, that means three open and two closed. Then it does not comes under the balanced parenthesis, right? It is an unbalanced parenthesis. So my question is to the language of balanced parenthesis. So that's why I just choose an example like this. My example is, this is an example, and now what the context free grammar for this is. And now I am writing an context free grammar for the balanced parenthesis. So I am taking this, I am defining G, what the G is. Starting with an any variable, nothing will be happen if it is an A, B, C, whatever it may be. But actually, as from the definition of the context free grammar, we choose S as a start symbol. So that's why we're preferring S here. Otherwise, you can choose E, or otherwise you can choose A, whatever it may be. It should be in capital letter. Then only it comes under the non-terminal, right? And my production is in the form of A tends to beta, right? So my A is an S I defined here, tends to, after tends to beta. Beta should be the combination of the terminal and the non-terminal. So I am taking, or only the non-terminal also, nothing will be happen. But always we prefer the combinations of the terminal and the non-terminals. So initially I defined S tends to, because I am writing the context free grammar for the balanced parenthesis, right? So I am choosing that S tends to open, S unclosed. If I want only this open, one open and one close, I need to stop this. Then I can put an epsilon in the place of this S, means I can get this balanced parenthesis. So that's why I put an epsilon here. That's why I put an epsilon here, and I am considering the epsilon is also an terminal, right? So this rule and this rule is get satisfied. And what about this in between rule SS? That means here I need more than one balanced parenthesis, so I need to choose SS. In the place of S, if I put SS, and again in the place of S, if I put this rule, because here after writing the context free grammar for this language, that is in balanced parenthesis, finally I get three rules, right? Where whenever I need to stop, I put an epsilon in the place of F, in the place of S. So that is for the rule 3. And whenever I need more than one balanced parenthesis, I need to go for choosing the rule 2. That means by substituting this rule in this, then I will get more number of balanced parentheses. So for that, I write the context free grammar like this. S tends to open parenthesis, S closed parenthesis, or SS, or only epsilon, right? And then how would you interpret the string using this grammar? Let's see how to interpret the string means. Interpreting the string using this grammar. This is the string, right? How many opens are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. See here. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 for this. And these are the two and these are the two, and finally open and close for this. So how to interpret this means, let's see how I will interpret this. See, how I am interpreting this means, and what the string I need to get here. This is the string I need to get here, right? So I'm starting with this S tends to see all of you how I am interpreting this. Actually, here we're having how many opens? 1, 2, 3, right? Now just putting an epsilon in the place of this S. Then we get 3 opens and 3 close, and the first open is not for the this one, and the first open we need to close it last. So 3 opens and 3 closes, and here we're having an S, right? And now here 2 open closes and 2 open closes, then finally we're having an close. 1, 2, 3, three. Then you need to open and put S, and here also you need to take 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. Here it is S. In the place of this, you need to take SS. In the place of this S, you need to take SS. And here we're having this close. Right. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And then if you put epsilon in the place of this S, and then you get, and you're having S, right? And finally 1. In the place of this S, you put rule number 1, then close. Then after putting epsilon in the place of S, you get right. You get this string, right? So this is the way of interpreting the given string. Right. Is it clear to you all how to interpret the given string? And just by using the rules, using an appropriate rule one by one, wherever it is necessary, at the initial itself, you need to choose. At the initial step itself, you need to choose which rule is an appropriate rule for substituting and to get an input string. Right. And so this is the process of interpreting the given string from this grammar. I think you all understand how to interpret it. Interpreting is nothing but an, here finally we write 3 rules for the grammar, for the language of the balanced parenthesis. And by using these 3 rules, we need to get the input string, this one. So for getting the input string, you need to choose an appropriate rule. Don't go back, right? Backtrackings are not allowed here. So at the initial step itself, you need to decide which rule is an appropriate rule, and then you need to substitute in that, and finally get an input string. Is it clear? And here we're having an example number 2. Example number 2 is also for writing the context-free grammars. Here what's the question is, a grammar for L. What the L is a language. L, where the language consisting of 0 power m, 1 power m. And here we're having a condition for the m and m. What the condition is, m is greater than or equal to n is the condition we're having here. So by satisfying this condition, we need to write the context-free grammars. So m is greater than or equal to 1, right? So when the m is greater than or equal to n means, how we can take that 0 1 0 0 1 0 0 1 1 0 0 0, and what it means is equal number of zeros and equal number of ones. I think we are getting here from the given language. And now this is a language, and from the given language we need to write a grammar. So let's start how to write the grammar. Put a heading G. G is a grammar, and start with the starting symbol S. S tends to, and actually our inputs are 0 and 1, right? And in between of 0 and 1, whatever it may be, only if I want to show the acceptance for 0 1, I need to take it as an 0 S1, right? 0 S1. Or again I am choosing another rule, because why I am choosing another rule means, here another rule in the sense, another variable, another new variable I am taking here as an a. Why I am choosing this is, and 0 power m and 1 power n, m is greater than or equal to n, and by satisfying the condition of this m, that means, see, here I'm having 1 2 3, 4, 5 zeros and 3 A's. 5 zeros and 3 A's means what the string it will be. So let's see by writing the context free grammars. Initially I am taking 0 as 1, right? And I am choosing that a is another new variable, and for the a I need to write an productions, and if not I forgot to write the productions means then it becomes an dead variable. So to make it as an live I need to give the productions, I need to write the rules for the a. So a tends to 0 a, 0 a. And if you need to end somewhere, we need to end the production, right? Somewhere we need to end the string, so we are choosing an epsilon for the a, we are choosing an epsilon for the a. And here always the m is greater than or equal to n, m is greater than or equal to n. So by satisfying this condition we write the productions like this, and my productions are 0 s1, 0 if I put a, and in the place of a if I put an epsilon then I get 0 1, right? If I put an a in the place of s, a in the place of s, or also if you put in 0 s1 in the place of 0 s1 also, you can get two zeros and two ones, equal number of zeros and equal number of ones, or odd number of zeros and odd number of ones, whatever it may be, it gets satisfied by this language, right? See how to get satisfied for equal number of zeros and equal number of ones means, and initially I need to take the starting symbol of the given grammar s tends to 0 s1, right? And again I am substituting in the place of s this 0 s1, this 0 s1, and I am putting a in the place of this s, and finally I am putting an epsilon in the place of a. So two zeros and two ones get acceptable, or else I need three zeros, only one, odd number of zeros and odd number of ones, right? Three ones and one. So in the place of this s if I put a, and in the place of this a if I put 0 a, in the place of this it is two zeros, right? In the place of this s if I put 0 a, or again in the place of this a if I put 0 a, then I end with an epsilon just by substituting in the place of a. Finally I'm getting three zeros and one a. See how it is. Again I will show you. See, let's see. Now I am interpreting for three zeros and one. How I interpreting for three zeros and one? See, and whether it is getting acceptable for the uh, written grammar or not. Just I am checking out. This we can call it as an verification and validation. Just by taking an input string and checking out whether it is an accepting from the designed grammar or not. And if it is not getting acceptable, that means the string not gets ended, then the whatever that we written in the form of a context free grammar is not in context free grammar. So for that we are checking that, and here whatever the grammar we designed, that grammar is suitable for the both odd number of zeros and even number of ones, as well as even number of zeros and odd number of ones, like that. So just I am showing you how to get even number of zeros and how to even number of zeros and ones and odd number of zeros and ones. The given grammar is acceptable for the condition even number of zeros and ones and odd number of zeros and ones. Let's see how it. Now I am showing you for equal number of zeros and ones, that is even number of zeros and ones. In the place of this s, if I again substitute 0 is 1, already 0 is there, already 1 is there. In the place of s, I again substitute. Now in the place of this s, now it is 0 0. If I choose epsilon, for choosing an epsilon I am substituting a 1 1. Now if I put epsilon in the place of the a, then finally what I am getting, 0 0 1 1. That means equal number of zeros and equal number of ones I get here, right? Same for, I'm showing you odd number of zeros and odd number of ones. See, in the place of this s, I need odd number of zeros, right? Zero. I am substituting 0a in the place of, now I am putting a in the place of this s. S a. In the place of a, I am substituting 0 0 a 1. Now it is equal number of zeros and odd number of 1 if I put epsilon in the place of a, but I need both odd number of zeros and odd number of 1. So again I'm putting 0 in the place of a. Now I am putting epsilon in the place of a. Then finally I get 3 zeros 1 1. So odd number of zeros and odd number of ones, equal number of zeros and equal number of ones, odd number of zeros, and you can also get even number of zeros and odd number of 1, and you can also get odd number of 0, but here we're not having an one for one rule for the year, right? So you can get even number of zeros, even number of ones, odd number of zeros and odd number of ones, as well as uh, even number of zeros and odd number of ones, odd number of zeros and even number of ones. So these are the things are getting to be acceptable for the written grammar. That means we written an context free grammar for the given language, right? So for that grammar, these are the conditions that are going to be acceptable. I think you all understand how to get interpret from the given grammar. That means this grammar we designed. We designed our own from the given language, and just by verification, we're finally concluding that whatever the design grammar, whatever the design context free grammar is there, that is an exact, a correct context free grammar, right? See here also we're having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 zeros and 3 ones. That means odd number of zeros and odd number of ones. You can also get acceptable by taking a string like even number of zeros and even number of ones. Also, we can get acceptable by taking in strings like odd number of zeros and even number of ones, as well as even number of zeros and odd number of ones. I think you all understand how to design or how to write the context free grammars from the given languages. Up to now, I explained you two examples for writing the context free grammars just by knowing what the definition of the context free grammar and knowing the quadruples, what the v, what the t, what the p, and what the s. Then after I make you to understand how to design the context free grammars from the given languages. I think you all understand this concept. If you have any doubts, you can ask, please. If you have any doubts, you can ask. Any one of you are having any doubts, you can ask. Please message in the chat box. I will respond to that question. Any doubts to anyone? And here we're having the example 3 and example 4. And please make a note of this example 3. We're having more number of examples for designing this, for designing the context free grammars from the languages. So it is, if you are well understand how, where, when to use the terminals and when to use the non-terminals, and how to frame the productions, how to get satisfied with the input strings. If you know all these things, means it is very easy for you for writing the context free grammars from the given languages. For any type of a language, you can get an ability to write. Then after, in the next class, I will explain you about the applications of the context free grammars as well as the context free languages. And please make a note of this example number 3.